People who were missing as a child, what happened? It all started on a regular Tuesday in April. I remember because it was right after my birthday, and I was still super excited about this charm bracelet my parents got me. My mom's brother, Uncle Oscar, picked me up from school, which wasn't that weird because he sometimes did that when my parents were busy. Uncle Oscar was always the fun uncle, the one who'd let me have ice cream before dinner and watch PG-13 movies. He had this red pickup truck that I thought was so cool, and he was always bringing me little presents and telling me I was his favorite niece. I was his only niece, but whatever. So that day he picks me up and says we're going on a little adventure. I'm like, cool, no homework tonight. He says we're going to visit his friend Leroy, who lives a few hours away and has horses. I loved horses at that age. What 9-year-old girl doesn't? So I was beyond excited. I didn't even question why we weren't telling my parents or stopping at home first. We drove for what felt like forever. Oscar kept playing these old country songs and telling me stories about when he and my mom were kids. He kept checking his rearview mirror a lot, and he wouldn't let me use his phone to call my mom to tell her about the horses. When we got to Leroy's place, it was already dark. It wasn't like a real farm, more like a house with a big yard and a couple of horses in a small stable. Leroy was this older guy with a big beard who didn't really talk much to me. I remember being disappointed because he only had 2 horses and they were old and I couldn't even ride them. We stayed there that night and I slept on this super uncomfortable couch while Oscar and Leroy stayed up late talking in the kitchen. I could hear them arguing sometimes, but I was too tired to really listen. The next morning, Oscar said we were going to extend our adventure, and we drove even further away to this cabin in the woods. The cabin belonged to Oscar's girlfriend Della, who I'd never met before. She seemed really surprised to see me there, and I remember her pulling Oscar into the bedroom and I could hear them fighting. She kept saying stuff like, "You can't do this," and "They're going to be looking everywhere," but Oscar kept saying he had no choice. I was bored out of my mind at the cabin. No TV, no other kids, nothing to do except play these ancient board games with missing pieces. Della was actually pretty nice to me though. She braided my hair and taught me how to make these friendship bracelets with embroidery thread. On the 3rd day, Oscar was acting super weird. He kept pacing around and looking out the windows. Della was crying in the bathroom. I started getting scared because the adventure wasn't fun anymore and I really missed my mom and dad. I asked Oscar when we were going home and he just said soon, but wouldn't look at me. That afternoon, these police cars suddenly came driving up to the cabin, like 4 of them with lights flashing. I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I was obsessed with cop shows back then. But then Oscar freaked out. He grabbed me and took me to this tiny closet and told me to hide and not make any noise no matter what. I sat in that closet for what felt like hours, but was probably only like 20 minutes. I could hear people shouting and Della crying louder, and then this woman officer opened the closet door and found me. She looked so relieved and kept saying, "We found her," into her radio. The next part was confusing because suddenly there were all these people and they were putting Oscar in handcuffs and Della was talking to another officer. Then they drove me to this police station where my parents were waiting and OMG, my mom just collapsed when she saw me and my dad couldn't stop crying, which was weird because I'd never seen him cry before. I didn't understand what was happening. I kept telling everyone about the horses and the friendship bracelets, but nobody was listening. They kept asking me if Oscar had hurt me or touched me in weird ways, which was so confusing because why would he do that? The craziest part is I legit thought I'd just been on a trip with my uncle. I had no idea everyone was looking for me, or that my face was on the news, or that my mom had to be sedated because she thought I was dead in a ditch somewhere. It wasn't until I was 15 and fighting with my mom about something stupid that she screamed, "Do you have any idea what it was like when Oscar took you? We thought we'd never see you again." I confronted my mom about it, and after a lot of crying, she finally told me the truth. My dad and Oscar had been business partners. Dad caught Oscar embezzling money and was going to report him to the police. So Oscar took me as like, leverage? He called my parents that first night and said they wouldn't see me again unless my dad agreed to let the whole money thing go and give Oscar time to leave the country. What Oscar didn't know was that my dad had already gone to the police about the money before I was taken. The police were able to track Oscar's phone to Leroy's place, but we were already gone by then. They finally found us at Della's cabin because Della actually called the police herself. Turns out she had no idea what Oscar was planning when he showed up with me.